So happy that you're all with us. I know some people will be coming in later. We just want to get started on time. Just go over a few housekeeping. Of course, this regular stuff. And please stay muted unless you're called upon to speak. Uh, the meeting is being recorded, and we're going to, if you can't attend, so those who can't join us can be able to see the recording later, which is great. We do have time built in for questions for each speaker, and you can, and if you're when you're thinking about a question, you can certainly put it in the chat. And anyway, just real happy for you all to be here, and just so thrilled with our amazing speakers, lineup speakers. And now I have the great privilege of introducing our amazing and wonderful president of our United Women of Faith Indiana Conference, LaDonna Weber.
Thank you, Lori, and welcome everyone. Um, the sun is shining where I'm at, but some of the rest of you may be encountering difficulties. It's a good thing we're not out on the road, because I just had a call from my brother up in South Bend, and he says, "It's terrible. I can't get out." Well, he needs to just stay home. So, so I'm glad we have this opportunity to do this on Zoom. It just, the weather is just not reliable in January and February. So, welcome. I'm glad you're here. You've all heard from everybody, you know, these times are difficult. So, you've heard it all. You've read Isaiah, you've read Micah, you know what Jesus said about living in community and loving your neighbor. So here we are trying to find out how to do that. So I'm glad you're here. And I'm glad we have this opportunity to work together with Church Women United. So I'm going to turn it over to Barb McCoy, who is the East Central Regional Coordinator for Church Women United. So, Barb.
Thank you, LaDonna. I too would like to welcome all of you to this very important, and it will be a very mind-blowing 2 hours of information and things that maybe we didn't know until now. So it's going to be a wonderful morning. Church Women United's part of its mission is anything to do with social injustices and those kinds of things. So we are really happy to be able to have this opportunity to share with all of you. I'm going to open with a devotion. There are stories of advocacy throughout the Bible. Think of Moses, Daniel, and Esther. To secure the Israelites' freedom, Moses uses his connection to Pharaoh to speak for the people. Daniel speaks up on behalf of himself, his friends, and his faith when he and his friends are taken from their own people and delivered to King Nebuchadnezzar. Esther is willing to risk everything to save her people, saying, "I will go to the king even though it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish." By using her influence with the king to advocate for the Jews, she puts her status as queen and even her own life on the line. And it works. King Xerxes hears Esther's pleas. She and her people are saved. God also calls each of us to be good stewards of our gifts. As Americans, we have the gift of influence with our government. When we steward that gift well, leaders are encouraged to make decisions that fight the systematic causes of poverty, conflict, and injustice. One determined voice can help change lives around the world, and that voice could belong to you. It's like Mordecai says to Esther as she's considering whether she should advocate for her people. And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. Let us be in an attitude of prayer. We sure do need you now, Lord. We sure do, just like we've always needed you. When we thought we could get along without you, we needed you to remind us of the grace you bring. When we thought you had abandoned us to our selfishness, to our tribalism, to our fears and our doubts, to our hates and our divisions, we needed you to lead us into pathways of peace and reconciliation. When we thought we could solve our problems all on our own, we needed you to empower us to do what is out of our reach. When we tried to deny that the problems and the brokenness exist, we needed you to call us to face the truth. When we retreat behind the walls of not my problem, we needed you to remind us of the unity of human race. We have always needed you, and we sure do need you now. Even now, Lord, even now. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin right now. Amen. At this time, I would like to introduce our first speaker, Gurinder Hole. She is a servant leader, a compassionate advocate for equity, and champion for social justice. Gurinder was born and brought up in New Delhi, India. Her formative years were influenced by her middle-class working parents, both teachers. As a Sikh, Gurinder learned the principles of Seva, which means selfless service for altruistic purposes on behalf of and for the betterment of a community, early in her life. Professionally, Gurinder trained as a physical therapist in India and arrived to work at Oakwood Hospital in Dearborn, Michigan in early 1990s on an H-1B visa. Gurinder earned her post-professional master's degree in physical therapy from the University of Indianapolis in 1995. In October 1999, Gurinder became the proud citizen of the United States of America. In 2001, Gurinder earned her master's in public health from the Fairbanks School of Public Health. Since then, she has worked in leadership roles in public health, nonprofit, and most recently in higher education at the University of Indianapolis. Gurinder is the proud mother of 2 children. She enjoys walking on the canal towpath near the 100-acre woods, reading, and yoga. In her role as the CEO of Immigrant Welcome Center, Gurinder focuses on initiatives to increase community-wide awareness of the rich cultural and ethnic diversity that our new immigrant neighbors bring to central Indiana and beyond. She also works closely with the board and key stakeholders to clearly describe the impact of barriers and challenges that our new neighbors face, and work with policymakers to identify and implement innovative solutions to address these changes. Gurinder serves on the board of the Indianapolis Neighborhood Housing Partnership. And it is my extreme pleasure to introduce to you Gurinder Hole. Gurinder?
Thank you so much. I'm really honored to be asked to present to all of you today and speak about immigrants and advocacy for our immigrant neighbors. I am reminded as you were reading my bio, which is way too long, I need to cut it down quite a bit, is it was on a snowy day like this that I arrived in the US many, many years ago. We won't talk about how many years ago that was, but you, as heard in my bio, was that I was born and brought up in New Delhi, India, and I had never seen snow in my life. The reason I'm telling you this story is that it's pretty clear from how I speak and from my bio that I'm a privileged immigrant. I came here on a H-1B visa, which is an employment visa. My parents were both teachers. I was brought up in a very metropolitan area. I spoke English. I was highly educated. And yet, when I arrived here, I felt um, a lot of the challenges that our immigrant neighbors feel. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. I'll do storytelling throughout as we go through a slide deck. So let's start with the first slide. Next slide, please. So as I shared with you all, that next slide, please, that I came here on a H-1B visa, and that was to be able to get a better job here, right? To find better opportunities for myself. So migration is happening throughout the world at any given time. These data are from 2020. So obviously these numbers are very different now. 2025 numbers would be very different from 2024 numbers, but you can see in 2020, there were about 281 million people, which is almost 3.6% of the world's population that is migrating. And individuals migrate because of two reasons. These are called push or pull factors. My factors were pull factors. I came here for better work opportunities. People also are forced to leave their countries of birth or origin because of what we call pull factors. These are related to armed conflict, disaster exposure, such as what happened in Haiti, gender inequality, lack of job opportunities, such as what has happened in Venezuela, political corruption, and variety of resources that are not just present in the countries that they call home. Next slide, please. It's important for us to then understand that what are the various statuses that individuals have. Recently, I have been meeting with many elected officials at the state level, and my friends, I'm just amazed by the lack of understanding of the statuses of various immigrants. I understand that these are myriad, and but I think it's important for us to understand. I am going to go into detail with some of these as I tell you why they are important for us to have a deeper understanding of. Refugees are those individuals who have fled from their country and have now, due to fear of persecution, they are mostly in camps in a country that is not their country of origin. And the International Organization of Migration talks about how these individuals will be resettled. So, for example, our Burmese brothers and sisters who arrived on the south side of Indianapolis in 2006, 7, and 8 were refugees. And asylees are those individuals who come to the US and then declare that they want to get a status because of persecution or harm in their country. The temporary protected status is at the discretion of the President of the United States. And in some of the following slides, you will see that I will talk about some of the countries that the TPS has been granted to. And again, this is temporary. That's what it states, that it's here. DACA, or Deferred Action for Children Arrival, is for those undocumented immigrants who came here with their parents. This was something that President Obama worked on and has been in place since 2010 and now has gone into limbo. Next slide, please. Going into the details here, a legal permanent resident, you heard about that I became a naturalized citizen. I came here on a visa, which was an employment visa. And then at that time, I was a legal permanent resident, or LPR as it's called. And many opportunities are available to LPRs to become naturalized citizens based on their countries of origin, to become a citizen of the United States. And that's what I did in 1999. Now, what is happening in our country currently? So let's dig into that a little bit now that we have had a similar understanding of what all of these immigrant statuses are. Next slide, please. So one terminology, as I was sharing with you, when I go and speak with our elected officials, many of them have this misinformation that individuals who have crossed the border are undocumented or unauthorized. I don't like to use that term. I say not lawfully present. That is a more human term, I believe, to utilize. And many times I'm talking to them about a person may come into the country, as I shared with you, the definition of an asylee. They may be fleeing from their country, and then they declared that they want to be able to get status in this country. So they are no longer undocumented. But that doesn't mean that they are also utilizing our public benefits, because that's the other myth that is being perpetuated by many of our elected officials in various positions. So important to understand that the myth about individuals who are undocumented is not an appropriate myth. As a matter of fact, in the state of Indiana, only about 3% of the individuals who call themselves immigrants are considered not lawfully present. So I want you to understand that terminology. Next slide, please. This is a slide that I want to emphasize to you all, my dear friends. As you can see, current is in this yellowish chrysanthemum color, and blue is in the past. So in February, there were 17 countries that had TPS designations, and this is 2025 data. And in July, you can see that the current administration at the federal level, as you may recall, I shared with you that TPS designation is at the discretion of the President of the United States. The current administration decreased the number of countries that had TPS designations. It is estimated there's about 13,000 individuals who are TPS holders who live in Indiana. Again, this number may not be right because it may be undercounting people. But why is this information important for you to understand? So an individual who in February of 2025 was lawfully present because was under a designation called TPS that had been declared by the President of the United States. In July, that designation changed. What happens to that individual? We, as that individual now became undocumented or unlawfully present because of something that this country did. They were here lawfully present just 6 months ago. So these changes are important for us to understand, because when we say that the number of not lawfully present people is increasing, or we are going to conduct these raids to round up these not lawfully present people, they were lawfully present in February. We changed the rules that made them not lawfully present. So important for us to understand this designation. Next slide, please. So I like to talk a little bit about this slide a bit, so that you have, again, a deeper understanding of who our immigrant neighbors are in Indiana and in Marion County. again, these designations of the countries of origin are by the US Census Bureau. So our brothers and sisters from Haiti are within the dark blue chart on the pie, which is Latin America. So 46.7% of the immigrants who live in Indiana are Latin American. Asia is countries such as India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, etc. Europe is pretty clear, and so is Africa. You can see that approximately 6.3% of the Indiana's population is foreign-born. And then Marion County is one of those population centers that has 11.6% of its population that is foreign-born. I started working at the Immigrant Welcome Center almost 5 years ago, and the number about the individuals who speak English at home in Marion County used to be almost 10%, and it has grown to almost 17%. This just goes on to show the change in the diversity as well as the presence of immigrants that make our county so beautiful by their rich culture heritage. So that number is 16.8%. Next slide, please. So when we again look at who the immigrants are who are living in Indiana, as I shared with you, there's so much misinformation and myths that exist about who the immigrants are. You can see that 47% of the immigrant are women. And then they are between the ages of, the majority of them are between the ages of 16 and 64. A lot of them work in the logistics industry. So you can see they are in construction and transportation and warehousing. And then when we look at their educational statuses, you can see that foreign-born individuals or immigrants are more likely to have graduate degrees than the US-born population. So they are having a deep impact on the communities that they live and work in. Next slide, please. When we look specifically at Marion County, this is an important piece of information for us to understand that on the west side of Indianapolis, the zip codes of 46224, 222, and 254, we have 51% of the West African population lives in that area. And then in the zip code of 46226, 24% of the Haitian population lives in Warren Township, and on the south side of Indianapolis in 46227 and 46217, 77% of the Burmese population lives. You'll be intrigued to hear that when we combine the Burmese population that lives on the south side as well as in the Nora area and then in the Fort Wayne area in Indiana, that is the largest number of individuals who are from Burma outside of Burma. So Indiana has the largest number of Burmese individuals. Why is this data important to us as an agency? This is important to us when the city is looking at what kind of services may be provided in the west side, for example. So we are able to give them information about the languages that are spoken by the brothers and sisters from West Africa so that the information is available to them and those services are also available to them in those languages. So it's important to understand the country of origin and other demographic data of our immigrant neighbors. Next slide, please. this is another way of looking at the countries of origin of our immigrant neighbors. When you look at the US, Indiana, as well as the central Indiana area, you can see Mexico is at the top, and then India also remains at number 2. But when you look at the US, China is number 3, and the same is true for Indiana, yet Nigeria is number 3 for central Indiana area. In the US, Philippines is at number 4, Nigeria is at number 4 in Indiana, and Myanmar or Burma is at number 4, as I explained to you in central Indiana area. El Salvador is number 5. Philippines is number 5 in the state of Indiana. El Salvador is in the country, and then China is number 5 in the central Indiana area. Again, important to understand the diversity of our immigrant neighbors, the countries that they come from, and their cultural values and the languages that they speak. Next slide, please. I mentioned a little bit about that Marin County has a large number of immigrant neighbors. There are other population centers, and we are highlighting those here in this map here. You can see in Lake County, almost 9% of individuals who are foreign-born. They are mostly there for pull factors because it's close to Chicago and employment opportunities. Tippecanoe County is because of the education factors related to Purdue University being there. Hamilton County, proximity to Marion County. Marion County has the largest there, employment opportunities, education opportunities, and then Allen County, by the way of the refugee resettlement that I talked about of our Burmese neighbors and economic opportunities. You will see that Evansville is missing from this. We know that there are many immigrant neighbors who call Evansville home, just that data is not available. And we strive at Immigrant Welcome Center to provide information that is evidence-based, so that information is not available from sources that are considered evidence-based, hence not included on these slides. Next slide, please. All right, this is an opportunity. I know that I have a little bit more to talk about, but I would like to take, with permission from Lori and Barb, to see if there are anything that surprised you. And you may want to put that in the chat. And that is just a point of reflection also for you. So that's why we create this slide here. But if you just want to speak up and say, hey, this is what surprised me, Gurinder, that's great too.
This is Barb, and I would just say I live in Fort Wayne, and I 100% agree with you with your statistics in Fort Wayne. We have a huge Burmese population, but they have blended into our society and our systems. They are, every time a church closes, they buy it and they establish their own congregations. And I actually have a Burmese congregation that meets at my church on Sunday afternoons. And they've blended well with the people in Fort Wayne.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Barb. Let's go to the next slide then and talk a little bit about who Immigrant Welcome Center is and what we do. So this is our mission, that we want to be a trusted partner and advocate for all immigrants. My friends, all immigrants is important here. We are very proud to say that it doesn't matter which country you're from or what languages you speak. If we can help you, we will provide those services to you. We also don't care about your ethnic or your cultural origins. They are important for us, and we hold space for that, as well as we are not going to ask you what your documentation status is, because we believe you are human, and the services that you need are important for the health and well-being of yourself and your family. Our vision is that every immigrant is thriving, and then we have outlined our values here. Next slide, please. So in 2024, we want to shine a light on the immigrant neighbors that we served at Immigrant Welcome Center. We are actually located in close to downtown Indianapolis on Meridian Street. My contact information is also included in the slides. These slides are available to you all if you want to have these and share these as talking points, etc. So you can see, other than the country of Mexico, all of the other countries are the countries that individuals who are coming from have experienced conflict, have experienced a loss of opportunities, loss of infrastructure. Afghanistan, when the fall of Kabul happened, Haiti, the continued lack of safety there, Venezuela, the fall of the government, as well as in Nicaragua. Next slide, please. These are the languages that were spoken by our clients. Again, these are the top languages. If you look at our annual report on our website, you will see that our clients spoke more than 48 languages, and they were from more than 74 countries, I believe. So you can see Spanish is the first language, and then Haitian Creole, which is spoken by many of our brothers and sisters from Haiti, and then Pashto, Dari, Farsi, and Persian. These are the languages that are spoken by those who are from Afghanistan and from various other parts of the Middle East, and then Arabic also. Next slide, please. What are the top needs of our clients? These are basic human needs. They're looking for housing that's affordable. They're looking for gainful employment. They're looking to learn English, as Barb mentioned. Many of our immigrant neighbors don't have the privileged journey that I had, where I learned to speak, write English, and read English in my country of origin. And they don't have that privilege. As a matter of fact, many of our clients who are in the English language classes that we provide are actually at 6th grade or less of formal schooling. So you can imagine how they're striving to, as Barb mentioned, integrate within their communities by learning English. And this also helps them in being able to communicate better and advance their job opportunities. They're looking for food and clothing, healthcare services, and then legal services as well. Next slide, please. I want to leave you with this. If you scan the zip code now, you will actually go to our website, to IWC Connect. This is a database on our website that's available at no cost to anyone. You can enter the zip code of an individual who comes to you. They may be your neighbor, or they may meet you at church or a grocery store. And if they're looking for assistance, you can enter their zip code, and you can look for free or low cost programs based on the zip code that they have entered. The categories are, again, various. You can access food, housing, employment, legal services, etc. What's really beautiful about this is that the website is actually available in 100+ languages. So even if you give that zip code to an individual who speaks a different language than you speak, they can choose the language that they want, and they can find the information in the language that they are looking for. So really an important resource, and you all can help in continuing to meet the need of our immigrant neighbors. Next slide, please. Our website also has a lot of resources. If you are yourself looking for resources, or if you're trying to provide resources to others, we curated these resources. All of these are from evidence-based and fact-based information. We provide you where we've pulled this information from, so that you can be assured that this information is reliable. And it's important for us to have access to this information as well. So providing you a screenshot of that in case you're interested in looking for that information. And we update this regularly. Next slide, please. So Barb asked me, or was it Lori, who said, Gurinder, what are some action items that you would like for our participants to leave with? And this is where, while there are some bills that I have listed on the slide, I would like for you to, as Barb started in her prayer offering, that each one of us has a role in holding our elected officials accountable for the policies that they're passing, because a policy may be targeted towards immigrants, but its impact is on the entire community. We are now anecdotally getting information that many of our immigrant neighbors are losing their jobs because they're afraid of driving. Many of them were, as I said, TPS holders, and because of the changes in the federal policies now, have lost that status and are being afraid of being stopped by police or law officials. Many are not sending their kiddos to school. We're also getting calls from healthcare providers where people are missing their doctor's appointments, or the kids are not coming in for their vaccinations. So you can see that while one may think, oh, this policy doesn't have an impact on me because they're just trying to control those people, they are having an impact on our communities. And it just is a domino effect. So contact your legislators, hold them accountable for the policies that they pass. Tell them why you think it's important for them to have our communities that are welcoming. And then these are the bills that are in the current session, legislative session, that we at Immigrant Welcome Center are following. And each one of these bills has issues that are related to impact on immigrant neighbors, how they can be stopped by law enforcement officials, how the law enforcement officials have to then collaborate with ICE, as well as penalties that are for workplaces that hire individuals without e-verify, etc. So I'm going to have the slides be taken off now and be open to any questions that you may have.
I have a question about the legislation that you just told us about. Are we to, I haven't researched them. Are you suggesting that we vote no on these bills?
Yes, if you look at these bills, they are targeting immigrant neighbors. The bill that Prescott's bill actually also puts burden about reporting of who is using public benefits. Again, many of these bills are based on information that is considered misinformation or is incorrect information. Immigrants are less likely to use public benefits. Actually, they're ineligible to use public benefits. And I have had that conversation with Prescott. I've talked to him about that, but there is that depth of understanding, the lack of the depth of the understanding. And that's why I went through all of those immigrant statuses with you. When refugees arrive in this country, they do come with some public benefits that are attached to them, but they're for a limited period. When Barb talked about our Burmese neighbors, when they came here, they received healthcare services through Medicaid, so that they were coming from a country where there was no healthcare, so that there could be some stabilization of their health done, because they are going to be integrating within our communities, right? So, but those services are very time limited, and they're not eligible for them after that time. So the misinformation about the immigrants using public benefits and taking all of these services is present, and that's why these bills have these provisions that make it harder for hospitals to be able to provide care when they should be able to provide care. Another information that is important for us to understand, I talked about the TPS, right? So many of the individuals, and I also give the example of the individual who was lawfully present in February but is not now in but they have lived here now. Their families are here, their children are here. So should they not go to work? What are we doing then, other than criminalizing them by arresting them because they may be not lawfully present? What other support systems are we creating? Are we putting a policy in place where they can get a driver's card or something? Those are deeper conversations, but I'm just giving you examples of how we're creating policies that are criminalizing people instead of creating policies that are welcoming and creating systems and supports that are helpful for our community as a whole.
I'd like to go back to the healthcare thing for a minute. It
Yes.
used to be that they got Medicaid for like 6 months,
Yes.
and then they were required to have a job and some
Yes.
other way to
That
get
is
assistance. Is that still correct?
absolutely correct. The same happens for our Afghan brothers and sisters also. They were for a limited time on Medicaid, and after that they had to get a job, and they are not on Medicaid anymore. A myth that exists is that that the children of immigrants are utilizing Hoosier Healthwise or the children's health insurance, and that their parents who are not using those services are using those services unlawfully. That is not correct. So let me give you an example. A woman who has a baby here in the US, and the woman may not be lawfully present, but her baby was born here in the US. The baby is a US citizen and has access to services. She may receive WIC benefits, which is the Women's and Infant Care benefits, for a limited period of time. Why? Because she's breastfeeding the baby, because she's taking care of the baby who was a US citizen. But that also is time limited. So these are important nuances that we need to understand as a community so that we can explain them to our elected officials who are not interested in understanding them. I'll give you another example. My friends, I met with another elected official who did not know that even unlawfully present immigrants pay taxes. They said, well, how is that possible? You can't have a social security number. Absolutely right. You cannot have a social security number when you're not lawfully present, but you can have a tax ID number. And a tax ID number, then you pay into state taxes, you pay into federal taxes, social security, all of those. You're paying into those taxes, but you're never going to be able to take benefit of those taxes. Why? Because you're not lawfully present, because you don't have. So you are actually giving to the community. You're not taking from the community. Barb and Lori, I'll give it back to you if there are no other questions.
I have one other question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. And again, I've so enjoyed hearing you again that I heard you in our church and such great information. But my question is, that after 6 months, okay, then they're supposed to get a job. However, some are not able to get a job. They're not able to get the correct visa. So they're in here. Like I know of individuals like of youth has graduated from high school, but then they can't get a job.
Yeah. This is what I'm talking about exactly. Instead of creating policies, I gave you the example of DACA. And because of time, I didn't go into it, but now that I have a little bit of time, I'll explain this. Indiana is one of 2 states in the country, my friends, that does not allow DACA recipients to get in-state tuition. I will say it again, one of 2 states in the country that does not allow DACA recipients to get in-state tuition. What does that mean? That you have been in Indiana, you went to a high school in Indiana, but if you want to go to Indiana University, you have to pay out-of-state tuition. So what are we saying to those kids? You don't matter to us because we're not going to let you advance your education. Why can't we change that policy? Is their education not important to us? Similarly, why can't we create opportunities, policies that allow trainings, on-the-job trainings for these individuals to be able to get the skills that they need so that they're lawfully employed? Take the example of, and we have spoken with many dairy farmers as well as many farmers throughout the state of Indiana. And they have many migrant workers who, take care of the cows, milk the cows, and take care of the farms. And they have said that if some of the policies that the current federal as well as the state administration come into effect, our industries will come to a standstill because US-born individuals don't want those jobs. So I hope I answered your question.
Brenda, we would like to thank you so much for this very informative time that we've spent with you. I worked with an Indian doctor for 35 years and went through his becoming a citizen with him and saw the joy on his face when he came to work and brought his little American flag. And I know how much it means to all of these people. And we very muchly appreciate all of the information that you have brought forth this morning. So thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and I'm going to leave now. Take care. Bye-bye.
At this time, I would like to introduce Mary Cartwright. The Reverend Mary W. Cartwright is the immigration, chairperson on the Diversity, Missions, and Justice team for the Indiana Conference of the United Methodist Church. She is a volunteer with the immigration team of Columbus Community United. Mary is a retired clergy person and serves as one of the associate district superintendents in the East Central Heights District. So this time I'd like to welcome Mary Cartwright.
It's really great to be here, and I'm really fascinated by Christine's presentation and look forward to supporting that. And I really appreciate Gurinder's presentation on immigration. I'll try to be really brief here, but I do want to point out one thing about the legislation, and that is, as I'm sure you know, immigration law is an administrative law, civil law through the federal government, and so our state seeks to be kind of in lockstep with the federal emphasis, and so one of the things that uh, I think is really important to know is how much this is about money. And so the one of the ways that the state supports the federal um, uh, efforts is primarily through law enforcement. And so most of our counties have 287G agreements with the federal government to support, to make it possible for sheriff's departments to participate with ICE enforcement, and that makes our state quite a bit of money. It's very, very lucrative to be in these agreements because the federal government is paying the sheriff's department to participate with ICE enforcement. And so that's important to know. We do have one of the largest detention facility in the Midwest is here in Indiana, in Brazil, in Clay County, at the Clay County Jail. For many years, that has been a detention facility in Indiana for many years. Now we also have a detention facility in Marion County, and I believe a few other counties where the county now is being paid to house detained immigrants. Um, and of course, the federal government is, working with the state, and we now have um, federal detainees in at Miami Correctional Facility, which is a state facility, and is will simply grow. The goal there is to have as many as 1,000 detainees. And so again, all of these are money-making ventures for the state of Indiana. And so advocating uh, against having these facilities available is, it is a financial um, ask because we like making money off of other people. In some respects, our detention uh, practices are becoming like a second kind of slavery because we are making money on people. Great misfortune. So I think it's just really important to pay attention to those things and to make sure that our legislatures are clear that that's what they're doing. Um, but I don't have specific bills, but those are the kinds of things to look for is any ways in which so there are bills that seek to make it easier for sheriff's departments to participate with ICE enforcement. And there are also bills that are making it more difficult for cities and towns to offer sanctuary. You hear that in the governor's rhetoric, in the president's rhetoric. We don't want to provide sanctuary. We don't want to make it so that cities can do anything different. I know I live in Columbus. It's very clear that the city police department has no interest in providing a 287G agreement to, detain immigrants as a city. And the city police department is supportive of the immigrant community, wants to help them, remain safe. But the reality is, if they arrest somebody, even for any reason that would take them to jail, then they become a part of the sheriff's system because the sheriff manages the county jail. So that enters in. So then they automatically, no matter what the city says, are going to be a part of an enforcement system that connects with the state government and ultimately with the federal government, cooperating between ICE and local governments. So there is a bill currently, and I apologize, I don't have the name, in which they're seeking to, offer protection to the sheriff's department so they can be less likely to be sued. Um, and all of those little things simply support and try to keep us in lockstep with the federal government.
We have published that on our social action message. It's SB 076. And
Okay.
it is on my social action message. We sure want you to vote against, contact your legislators and tell them to vote against this bill.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Lori. Um, I think the only other thing I wanted to address in the time I have, and that is that some of our most effective advocacy is as in our local churches and our local communities, helping to educate other people and to educate why, as Christians, this is not simply a political issue as a political issue up there, which I know I encounter a lot of, well, we shouldn't be talking about politics in church. I'm sure you encounter those kinds of things as well. And so the importance of this as a Christian issue is this is very very much central to our faith commitments. And I don't know if you have the slides, Lori, can that you could put up there, or somebody, whoever does that. This, that
Jackie, do you want to do it or do you want me to do it? Oh, Jackie's got it. She's on it. Thank you, Jackie.
there's many resources. In the church, in our conference, this is our vision as an Indiana conference. We're on the move, multiplying the love of Jesus Christ, cultivating the joy that comes from living Christ-centered lives and inspiring hope here in Indiana and around the world. That's kind of a basic statement for, who we are and why it's important to care for our immigrant neighbors. Next slide. Again, on our vision, we're Christ-centered, United Methodist communities, living out our mission of making disciples of Jesus Christ. Caring for our immigrant neighbors is very much a discipleship issue. And so as we teach and witness and talk about immigration, we want to emphasize that it is an important part of our discipleship to make a difference, to help transform the world in our Wesleyan heritage, and to acknowledge the beauty of all children of God, not just white children of God, but of all of our neighbors. Next slide, please. So to echo Micah, the words of Micah, what does the Lord require of us? I think it requires holy boldness, courageous advocacy on the ground, as well as with legislatures, and the joyful embrace of our immigrant neighbors. Next. So this really with holy boldness, it requires a really claiming this connection between discipleship and immigration, that care for the immigrant is not an option, but this is a central biblical theme of the children of Israel were immigrants themselves. They wandered in the wilderness looking for a homeland, and that shaped how they understood themselves for the rest of time. That to remember when you were remember when you were a slave in Egypt, remember when you were wandering around and looking for a place, and treat other people in those same circumstances as you needed to be treated yourself. And so preaching and teaching this perspective is really an important part of our advocacy, that this is central to who we are as people of faith. Next. This does require courageous advocacy, but there are lots of ways to do that. You can organize immigrant information events in your small towns, local churches, church suppers with speakers, information, opportunities for volunteering to support immigrants in your community. Helping people see, as Corinda, offered the different places where immigrants live in Indiana, helping people to recognize those folks as neighbors, not as illegals or as aliens, but as neighbors and friends, is a really important part of our advocacy work, because as people hear the political rhetoric that's happening. And so we would need to transform that rhetoric for them to understand that that's not accurate, that there's a lot of misinformation there. And as they understand and recognize people as neighbors, then they're more likely to put pressure above on those legislators in their work. Next. Part of this is lifting up. The church has great, carefully prepared statements on immigration from the Book of Resolutions, from the website on the Board of Church and Society is a great resource. We have a web page on the conference website that has information, and lifting up these, carefully prepared statements that are biblical and theologically accurate as far as our immigrant neighbors is really important. Next. Next slide. I'm not going to read all of that. This is the statement from the United Methodist Book of Resolutions, 3281, but again reminds us of the centrality of migrants to our Christian faith. Jesus himself was a sojourner. It's a great statement. Next slide, please. This is the updated faith and facts cards, sorry, about immigration. These could be printed off and handed out to people. These are readily available on the Church and Society website. You can also order them pre-printed for a modest cost. Next slide, please. These are the websites that I mentioned from the Board of Church and Society. They have lots of take action steps and also our conference webpage. Next slide, please. Updated information is really important. There are some great resource people out there for detention. The Detention Watch Network is a network of lots of organizations that are working to advocate for immigrants, particularly they, are looking at detention. It is important to know that while a relatively small percentage of immigrants are undocumented or, as Corinda said, illegally present, many kinds of people are being detained, whether they're lawfully present or not. The Detention Watch Network keeps up on that. You can join that. There's a local Communities Not Cages group that works with Detention Watch Network, and they have lots of information. Continually sharing information, letting people know what's happening is really important. Next slide, please. Of course, Church World Service has been a partner of the United Methodist Church for years and years. They're focused on refugees. And it's important to know that, as Gorinda said, refugees are here lawfully. You can't even get in the country until you've been heavily vetted as a refugee. And yet we're reneging on some of those agreements with our refugees. Church World Service offers a daily state of play that you can subscribe to that gives updates about refugee policy, changes and issues. We have many refugees directly supported by United Methodist Churches in Bloomington. There's, a large East African community in Bloomington. And of course, Exodus Refugee here in the state of Indiana is a great source of information. But Church World Service, is kind of across the board what's happening with refugee issues. Next slide, please. For example, on January 9th, the Department of Homeland Security announced the launch of Operation Post-Admission Refugee Re-Verification and Integrity Strengthening, or PARIS. And currently, this seems to target 5,600 refugees in Minnesota. But basically, it's the first step in a process that revisits refugee status. So people have come here, promised refugee status here in this country, and they've gone through the process. I've known many refugees, East African refugees in Bloomington, for example, who have been here for maybe several years now. They have jobs, they've bought houses, and now they could be subject to this detain first, again, detention, which makes no sense to detain somebody first, but detain first and ask questions later, where in the case of Minnesota's refugees may be transferred out of the state into detention, perhaps in a place like Miami Correctional Facility, and only then subject to this intensive re-verification when they have already been verified and re-verified in the whatever refugee camp they were in Madagascar, wherever they might have been, to come here. So it's an attempt to revisit and make life worse for people that we have made promises to. So it's a real reneging on our promises as a government to people who have come here seeking refuge. So keeping watch on those things, Church World Service is great to offer, um, easy access to addressing some of our U.S. legislators as they're working on some of this legislation. Although, of course, some of it is initiated by the president and doesn't seem to even be given much oversight by Congress. Next slide, please. Um, Again, pointing out inconsistencies, just continually to provide information is really important. Next slide, please. So, our courageous advocacy, we live in a world where political rhetoric condemns immigrants to a life of fear, hiding, and intimidation. It really is going to require courage on all of our parts to speak out against the misinformation, to point out lack of due process, to resist the devaluing of human beings who are precious and beloved by God. So I encourage you to, find that courage and strength from working together. It is controversial, and people would prefer to think that the government is doing the right thing. And so it really requires courageous advocacy on our part at all levels. Next slide. And finally, nevertheless, it is a joyful thing to embrace our immigrant neighbors. It's challenging, but it's a joyful opportunity to try to make a way where there seems to be no way, to make new friends, discover amazing human beings along the way. I was really kind of surprised at Thanksgiving. One of our churches that serves primarily a Latino population asked for assistance because they were holding a public Thanksgiving Day meal for the community, and they were concerned that because it was public and open and advertised, that perhaps it might be a target for an ICE raid. So they asked for some support, and we had about 15 volunteers from United Methodist churches in the Indy area to go and simply be present in the parking lot. There wasn't really a lot that we could have done if ICE had showed up, other than to document what was happening, but we were there. And so as people came in and out of the building, they knew somebody was present who cared about them and was concerned. And it was just a joyful experience to be able to, for one thing, to see how much that was appreciated, that people felt that they had, that we were working on this problem together. And so it's uh,
Mary,
yeah,
it's Carol Tiller. And
yeah,
I just wanted to share how grateful they were. And it was the fact that, yes, we can alert and to get them into the pastor's office, um, but are directing, so to notify the pastor, of course, right away if ICE did show up. But they invited us to dinner, and they even sang a song for us in English of thanking us like this. And so and made a connection about that their women's group of getting together with my church's women's group. So
yeah.
like that. But I just want to say how thankful they were.
Yes, absolutely. And it was very humbling to see how such a small thing really could was so appreciated and so
Yeah.
encouraging to people in the church.
They also had offered it free to anybody. So I guess they had a sign out so people came for driving by and realized they had a free meal. So then when I did, after my shift was over, when I went inside, I was surprised there was over 70 people inside
Yeah,
that they served that many.
yeah, yeah. Did you eat? The food was delicious.
Yes, my husband and I, we both ate there. Yes. So gave
Yeah.
us a time to talk and interact with them more. Mhm.
So there's lots of ways to be advocates for people, and as as that sense of solidarity and community, is strengthened, I think that does have an extra it has an impact on legislation and on how people are feeling about legislation that goes forward. So that's my spiel. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Thank you, Mary. We really appreciate. We do have time for questions afterwards. So I think we'll go on. Do we want to take a break, or unfortunately, our timing got interrupted, and so our speaker Andrew Bradley, he's a lobbyist and he has an appointment, but to go to. But maybe I'll just share my uh, screen real quick. He let's see, I have it on there, don't I? Okay. Uh, well, forget. Well, I'll share it later. He has a bill that he wants us to pay attention to. Is Miranda on?
Lori, I'm on and I'm so close to my house. So if it's possible to take a quick break so I can transfer to my computer, that would be fantastic.
Yes, we can.
But I did have a question for Mary, regarding the protection during the church services. So how does that work if ICE wants to come into the church and conduct their raids? Do they need paperwork? Are you all allowed to deny them access? Like, what does that look like in the capacity of like the legal rights of access to the church and the space?
Sure. Well, unfortunately, there aren't for public spaces, there are no legal, you can't tell, you can ask them to leave, you tell them that you did not want them to come in, but they can come in because there is no longer that sanctuary space that's considered private. Now you can create private spaces in your church. So it's the sanctuary, anybody can come in. It's a public space. That's the nature of our churches, but you can designate the offices as private space, and or you can designate maybe your child care area as a private space, and you have to designate that, and then they would have to have a warrant. So it is a very important. They will carry sometimes a a, a Homeland Security warrant, which is not a warrant signed by a judge. But to come into a private space, they have to have a judicial warrant signed by a judge, and they look very different. I don't have those documents with me at the moment, but they're readily available on the conference website, ACLU website. But you want to, so if I should arrive and you have people who are at risk or vulnerable, then you would move them into a private space as quickly as possible. And then you would look for that warrant. And if they have a judicial warrant, then you have to let them in whether you want to or not. But if they just have a Homeland Security warrant, then you say no, that they cannot come in. But you can't keep them out of your sanctuary technically. You can, make it uncomfortable for them. Maybe they won't want to come in. You can't keep them out of your parking lot, but you can go out there and talk to them. You can document what's happening. You can film what's happening. So you can make it more uncomfortable for them to do their job, but you cannot keep them out of a public space.
Thank you, Mary. Does anybody else have any more questions while Miranda gets to her house?
Mary, thank you for your presentation. I am just wondering, with the information that you have just given about churches, to give that added security for the immigrants, do the churches know that? Is it something that maybe we need to pay attention and begin to educate the church members to know how to protect the people they have in their churches?
I mean, that's a good point, Jane. Many churches have begun to take those steps. I know Sandy Hook Church in Columbus has a really good document sort of outlining a process for keeping your church safe. They have a number of immigrants who use their daycare facility. So we do have guidelines for churches to use in order to pay attention to these things. And some churches have, some churches have not. So, yeah, encouraging churches to pay attention, yeah, is a really good thing. And they simply, it's not that difficult to designate these spaces and to train your volunteers to understand. I think the more challenging part is to help people understand why they should do that and why um, it's uh, it's something that they can give attention to as a person of faith. And because the political things are more challenging to deal with, I think, than the actual details of how do we do this. But there is a really nice document on the conference website that's available for people who want to protect their church buildings.
Thank you, Mary. That's very helpful. I just wanted to shout, Christine Daniels is a co-founder of Transitional Healthcare Correctional Services. Prior to this, Christine was an executive director of Transitional Healthcare for Indiana Department of Corrections. Christine established transitional healthcare with 22 state correctional facilities and 10 parole districts, developing a first of its kind continuum of care between jail and prison, community corrections, parole and probation, and community providers. Christine has put on a spotlight on special populations with high rates of return, including mothers, fathers, geriatrics with those long-term sentences, and those with severe behavioral health and physical health issues. Christine assumed oversight of the Officer Brian Leith Memorial Material Health Child Health Care Unit in 2019 and transformed the unit with the punitive model to be a medical model focusing women's graduate from the unit. Transitional healthcare has further evaluated and validated using the identified Medicaid claims data to have reduced return rates for those with severe physical and behavioral health diagnoses. Christine currently works on several state, local, and global projects focused on women and mothers who are just as impacted, serves on International Corrections and Prison Association healthcare networks, and develops transitional healthcare model of care using research, practice, and policy development. It is my great pleasure to introduce Christine Daniel. And after Christine speaks, we'll have Mary come back on. She said she's back on now. So go ahead, Christine. Thank you for your patience and going a little bit early. We appreciate it.
Oh, of course. Thank you for the introduction. I'm really so thankful for this group and all of the advocacy that you guys do. So I'm honored to discuss the prison nursery at IDOC and how we can help these women and their children. I didn't prepare any slides. I'm really just going to talk. I can do a more in-depth presentation around the efficacy of the model, data, and all those other things, if that's something you guys would want in the future. But just quickly, a bit of history about why I'm speaking today. So in last year's legislative session, a bill was put forth by Senator J.D. Ford to codify the Officer Brianne Leith Maternal Child Health Unit at the women's prison.
Christine, sorry to interrupt you. Turned off your video.
I turned off my video? Okay.
Yeah.
Hold on. There we go. Okay, there we go. You guys can see me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this unit is incredibly unique. It's a unit where women who are entering IDOC and are pregnant can give birth while they're in custody and serving out their sentence and keep their babies. And it includes evidence-based education and support I'll get into in a little more detail. During my time as the executive director of transitional healthcare at IDOC, we implemented a complete turnaround of the culture, operations, and the expected outcomes of that unit. And by 2022, we were published in multiple multiple scientific journals and recognized internationally as the global model for prison nurseries. I left DOC at the end of 22, and the unit has struggled since. And this often happens in state government. Policies and priorities can be changed, and successes can be ignored by new administrations. So concern has grown for the women and children on that unit, as well as the women who were denied placement on the unit. Because we shared information with other states who then legislated their prison nurseries. Missouri is a perfect example. They used all of our policies and procedures on our unit to then legislate their prison nursery in Missouri. An idea was put forth to legislate this nursery. And it was driven by talk that the nursery at IWP may be closed. IDOC just in general is kind of a fear-based culture that really focuses on safety and security. So they're fearful about what might happen instead of controlling for the positives. And we were able to show that the wins that we need to protect those positives, right? So it's easier for them to separate moms and babies than actually do the work. So this bill last year made it out of committee in the Senate and was added to a larger corrections bill in the House. After the second or third reading, we still don't know, believe it or not, which reading it was taken out of. It was removed with no explanation. So the purpose of this presentation is to provide an understanding and a really unique perspective while asking for your support and readiness as this bill is prepared for next year, which of course we all know is a budget year. We all want you to be educated and just prepared to support. So this unit, and some of you may have heard of the show Babies Behind Bars, which was filmed before we took over the unit, was formally based on a punitive model that really used the threat of taking children away as a way to control behavior by not breaking various rules or even going out to court for a modification. So when I took over the unit, along with Miranda, who will speak later today, we partnered with subject matter experts from pediatrics, early childhood education, leaders in public health and maternal health, as well as sister state agencies to create a nursery with expanded access, levels many times that exceeded care levels in the community. And what this ended up with was a reduction in return rates, moving from a 46% return rate for women who had previously been into the unit down to 1%. And we did this by utilizing transitional healthcare, which follows people pre-release and post-release. This happened because we were willing to put in the hard work, and the women we served were incredibly smart, strong women who made a mistake and wanted the best for them and their children. And something that Miranda always reminded them of was, you won't be a felon or an inmate or an offender, but you'll always be a mom. So that was kind of our mantra, getting them to be forward thinking about their future. There were a lot of details that I don't have to address. If you want more details, we are happy to provide that, more data and things like that. So our goal next year will be to codify the nursery so it cannot be shut down. This will require what we want to require of DOC, and the language that was in the bill last time is to require subject matter experts to be involved in any changes to the nursery. No one at DOC has the skills, or including me, right? Which is why I brought in people from IU School of Medicine, the School of Public Health, all of these other entities to help make changes that were going to be effective. So IDOC doesn't have the skills or experience to make any changes. So we ask that members of the pediatric medicine, public health, and maternal health community are able to evaluate the effects of those changes before IDOC makes any changes. The goal is to build a nursery inside of a prison instead of a prison inside of a nursery. Second ask is data collection and reporting. We ask that all relevant data is continued to be collected and that reports are sent to the legislature for transparency. I will say that many members of the legislature have asked for data and they have been dismissed or ignored. We also are asking for fiscal transparency. All donations and expenditures are to be recorded and made available to the public. The budget for the unit, there is no budget for the unit, and it is run solely on donations. So, but there also is no transparency around those donations. How much is being donated, who is spending the money, what the money is being used for. So no woman benefited from the money made from the TV show, right? Um, and right now we have a former participant who really was our star on the unit, um, who is about to be unhoused. It would have been great if some money had been put in a slush fund for those kind of emergencies, but it wasn't. So we're asking for transparency around that. Our other ask, well, our other goal, and then this is where you guys might come in as well. We need to identify a legislator that is brave enough to sponsor this bill. I will say most legislators want IDOC's stamp of approval before they sign on, which is counterintuitive, I know, but that is where we are. So we need a champion. JD Ford, who sponsored our bill last time, is now running for Congress and will not be able to sponsor a bill next session. So we're looking for a new champion who understands that the need for the legislation and why DOC is really not able to do this on their own. So our call to action is to build a group of supporters and ready ourselves as we move through the next year. I know I sent my contact information to Lori. So we do have a website with a contact form. We would love to utilize people who fill out the contact form specifically for this purpose to build a mailing list for updates and action items as we move through the year. If that's something you're willing to do, Lori also has our website, and the link is right on the front page for contact. That's pretty much my presentation. If you guys have more questions or want me to do a deep dive quickly, if we have a little time, into any of the programs built within that unit or why they're important or any other outcomes, I'm happy to do that in the next few minutes. I want to be cognizant of everybody's time.
Thank you, Christine. I think you've really covered it because we really need to hear back from you when this legislation is moving so we can know what to vote for and what bills we need to support. So we'll look forward to hearing from you so we
Yeah.
can get that information out because we do, this group, our Indiana Conference, United Women of Faith, love, love, love the nursery. And we want to do everything we can do to support you.
Thank you. We
And
are working on some plans. We would love to get a group of community members. It would love representation from your group and put them in front of the commissioner at some point, as well as whoever is going to sponsor the bill. I feel like we're going to be able to find a sponsor. I just need it to be the right one, right? We really need a Republican on board. So that's something that we're looking into. We're going to be setting meetings after session, so we'll have updates to share around that. But that's kind of our ask and our presentation, and we just appreciate you guys for the continued support of the unit. We're just looking for transparency and longevity.
well, I'm on the list, and
I know.
I'm sure other people will also volunteer to support you in any way. So hopefully your slide is on the end of the presentation. So hopefully we'll get some people to sign on and help you in any way we can. Thanks again.
Great. I thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Mary's back. Was not even he's actually a lobbyist, but I've been putting on our social action messages the importance of this bill, SB 285, and it came up last year. It was defeated 3 times. It was defeated, and this is this idea of criminalizing homeless people came from a think tank called Cicero, and they're spreading this all over the United States. And Indiana was one of the ones that resisted it last year, but of course they're coming back this year. So please, please, please contact your legislators and tell them to don't vote no on 285. And then I can also send out this PowerPoint. I'll put it in a social action message for you to have, so you can show it to your people at your church. We'll wait for Miranda to speak at 11:10, but I just wanted to say this, people who are on it, I just wanted to say that about housing. I want to talk a little bit about housing, but since uh, Andrew isn't with us, the main reason why we have so much problems in Indianapolis and Indiana is because our legislators favor legislation for our landlords, and they don't have any tenant rights. And so all these out-of-state investment companies are buying up our properties in Indiana, and and raising the rents, and so we don't have any affordable housing for these people. So anyway, it's really a state our state legislature needs to get on board with legislation, and it's the only thing that's going to help us with homeless population. We do have a wonderful initiative called Streets to Home that's been started, and they've gotten I think they're working on 300 people to get them in apartments. So anyway, that's all I have to say, I guess, about.
Lori,
Yes.
well, this is Electa Burke, and I live in Richmond, Indiana. I want to make a comment about the absentee landlord. There's
Okay.
an apartment complex near my home that was just written up where the people, some of the building in there have not had water for 2 months, have not had hot water for 6 months, has mold growing, and the landlord lives in California. And this is what people are dealing with. And then the maintenance man, they found out, was taking the copper and some wiring out of the buildings so that he could have money because he wasn't getting paid. So the the state legislature favors these absentee landlords because they get money. Just follow the money and you see how things are going. So this is just within the last 2 weeks that this has come aware with this apartment building. And yes, they always raise the rent. The minute and these investment firms that are buying these homes for investments, the people that are getting money or oh shoot, I don't know, the profits that for those investments are going to people, those people don't know where those profits are coming from. And I just wonder if they knew where those profits were coming from this poor housing, if they would want to invest in them anymore. So it's transparency and follow the money. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you so much for bringing that up. And our the Indiana uh, Apartment Association is one of the largest contributors to our Indiana state legislators. So it's following the money. You're right. Anyway, I'm so pleased and happy. I think most of us are back to introduce to you my dear, dear friend. I just love her. Well, and Christine both, but I love this lady. Uh, Brenda Williams joined Reform Alliance in January 2023 as an Indiana state organizer after working with the Indiana Department of Corrections for over 16 years. While working at IODC, Miranda held positions in case management and assisted in creating the IDOC Medicaid processing unit to ensure all released individuals had access to health care coverage upon release. Miranda led efforts as the Director of Transitional Healthcare to establish the first transitional healthcare team within a prison system, focusing on the prevention of justice responses to social detriments of health for incarcerated and paroled individuals. As the Indiana State Organizer for Reform, Miranda is responsible for rebuilding grassroots support across Indiana by mobilizing community members, advocating for policies focused on supervision reform, cultivating relationships with local stakeholders, and organizing grassroots campaigns to influence state legislation with the goal of creating pathways to stability and the well-being for individuals impacted by the justice system. She currently champions a statewide coalition over 120 reentry organizations, business faith leaders, and community members committed to improving Indiana's supervision system. Miranda holds a bachelor's degree from Ball State University and a master's degree from Indiana State University in criminal justice. She is an adjunct professor within the Criminal Justice Department at the University of Indianapolis. So it's my great pleasure to introduce her, and I hope you all at the end of this will join her coalition. She'll explain it further. So I'll be quiet and let you talk, Brenda. Thank you.
No, thank you, Lori. I'm so happy to be here, and I appreciate you creating a space for me to talk about Reform Alliance, the work we're trying to do here in Indiana, along with some of our federal legislation. Those of you who don't know, Reform Alliance is a bipartisan organization. They were founded in 2019 by the music artist Meek Mill. Prior to that, Meek had been involved in the justice system his entire life, and he was on probation, continuously being returned back to prison on technical violations. So violations where he was not committing a new crime, but violations where he wasn't following the rules. He popped a wheelie in the streets of Philadelphia. His probation, he was violated on probation for that instance and got a 2 to 4 year prison sentence. So he had a support group of friends that included individuals like Michael Rubin and Jay-Z and Robert Kraft. And when they realized that you could go back to prison without committing a new crime, they all rallied around him for his release. And then in 2019, established Reform Alliance with the aim to transform the probation and parole system. And they've done an amazing job since the establishment in 2019. As an organization, we have passed 22 bills in 12 states. So really, really great opportunity for supervision reform in such a short time. And some of those states include Florida, Pennsylvania, New York, Illinois. In Mississippi, they were the organization that passed the first law to expand remote reporting opportunities for people on supervision. So a lot of progressive bipartisan work in the supervision system. That led to over 850,000 people able to exit the supervision system and be free from being under the criminal justice system. So really, really great work. They came to Indiana in November of 22 and conducted 2 focus groups, one in Indianapolis and one in Crown Point, to get the temperature of what the community wanted. What type of supervision reform did they want in the Hoosier states? What did our community want supervision to look like? The first 2 years that reform was here in Indiana, we focused on championing a compassionate release bill that really tailored and targeted individuals who were incarcerated in the prison system, who were medically incapacitated, gravely ill, skilled nursing, and needed full-time care in a nursing home. And we went through 2 legislative cycles, and unfortunately, the bill did not get passed, but we had a lot of support. We had a lot of bipartisan support, a lot of community support, and it was a bill that really made sense to Indiana and to our Hoosiers. Although the bill didn't pass, it really gave reform and myself an opportunity to kind of reorganize and re-strategize of what are some things that we could be doing to really move the criminal justice system and look at supervision reform. So since then, I have been traveling across the state. I'm the only reform staff here in Indiana, so I cover all 92 counties. All communities, and I have been holding listening sessions, meeting with stakeholders in the community, just talking about like what are we looking at, what do we want to keep our community safe? So we have been just hitting the ground, meeting with DOC leadership, meeting with community leadership, elected officials. We have our faith community as a huge part of that conversation. I can't thank Lori enough to allowing even opportunities like this to speak about it to individuals who may not be familiar with the justice system or why supervision reform may even need to happen. And I heard that Carol was on here earlier, also have been a great advocate, and I saw Crystal Brooks. So a lot of ladies that have been working with me in the space, just trying to champion some movement here. Indiana will not be, we do not have any legislative efforts happening this session. We are just, like I said, gathering information and really looking at, are there just some simple policy changes that we could be doing within the community? And the whole goal is to really reevaluate how we use probation and parole here. Are we following best practices? Are we using the research, or are we just creating laws and policies because we're still mad at these individuals who broke the law and we don't want to give them a second chance? So it's been very well received. I am happy to say that. And now we just have to look at how do we make some movement here. And the ways we do that is, as Lori said, I champion a statewide coalition, the Indiana Secure Community Coalition, which I would like to invite you all to join us. And the whole goal, again, is to have individuals from our Hoosier community coming to the table, talking about what we want our community to look like when we talk about safety, what makes us feel safe, what makes sense as we're looking at laws and policies, and how do we just feel comfortable making decisions about change. And it's real important that we have all aspects of the community represented at that table. I have a very large coalition, as Lori said. Right now I'm at 126 organizations, individuals, businesses, faith leaders, but the faith community is such a huge aspect of this work. I say you all are often overlooked and underappreciated because at times when the criminal justice system doesn't have a solution, when the community doesn't have a solution, the faith community it has the underlying expectation to find a solution. And I think there's a lot of avenues that we could provide support and have those conversations. And it's also a space where you all offer a second chance and the opportunity for redemption to a population that has really been overlooked and kind of thrown away by society. And we know by research and data that there are individuals who are involved in the justice system who have simply made a bad mistake. And with the right opportunity and the right support and the right resources, they will do good. They will contribute to their community and serve their family and serve their faith. But they can't do that if they don't have that opportunity. So it's extremely important that we create a space for that. And I'm so thankful for the faith leaders that we have on our coalition who have led efforts for me to get in these spaces to have a really honest conversation about, a population that, again, is often overlooked while they're incarcerated. They're really out of sight, out of mind. And it's not until we hear something bad happening on the news that people decide that they want change to happen. And we're really working on getting in front of that to see how we can keep our community safe, give people an opportunity for a second chance, and just do things that make sense. So again, reform isn't passing any state legislation, but I am excited to announce that we are pushing a federal bill. It's the Safer Supervision Act. I'll put the website in the chat. But two things that are really important about this bill It will be the first federal legislation that focuses on federal supervised release. So individuals who are sentenced to the federal supervision, when they are released, they have mandated things that they have to do. They're mandated to go to supervision, and there's just a very one size fits all way to supervise individuals on federal release. And there has never been any legislation to really address that. So we are the first organization to really champion this effort. Um, and I'll put the bill number in there in the chat along with the website so you can kind of read about what we're looking at. But it's really it's a bipartisan bill with some research based common sense practices like having allowing probation officers to have some judicial discretion when violating people in federal supervision. There's just mandates of if you miss a drug test, you go back to prison, and it doesn't matter what the circumstances is. So allowing individuals to have that discretion of whether a violation is necessary or not. It also helps filter out those who may not need supervised release. Does everybody need to have a mandated 2 years of supervised release when they serve their time? So just looking at how can we supervise the people better? Are there people who even need it and they're not maybe considered a danger to the community, and how do we reallocate those resources? And another part of this, the law that's really important is it will have a data study attached to it. There has never been a data study regarding individuals on federal supervised release. So again, we have some of these policies and laws that are in place with no data or best practices attached to it. So really just bringing some common sense ideas to the federal system. And this is exciting for Indiana because although we are not hosting any bills, in the past, when criminal justice reform bills have been passed under a Republican president, there was hosts of other states that have followed suit for state legislation. So it's really creating a pathway momentum to get supervision reform on people's mind here in Indiana. So when we do look at continuing our efforts, we will have the momentum and we will have some successes to show. So we're super excited about that. Lori has the call to action slide that I believe she'll be sharing at the end of it, but we would really love for each and every one of you to not only join my coalition and work on efforts at a state level, but we have a petition that is circulating for individuals to sign to support the Safer Supervision Act. So I will put that link in the chat. And also we have a federal coalition very similar to the statewide, again, with all of the people who are excited about this to come together and have thoughts, and you can receive updates of how this is moving and any calls to action in your state. And if you'd like to learn more about the bill, I'll put my email in the chat as well. So if you need to have specific questions before you sign the petition, happy to answer that. And I will ask too, if you know anybody who would love to have the conversation about probation and parole reform here in Indiana, please feel free, and I welcome that connection. One really great thing about our coalition is we're all like-minded individuals coming to the table to really review and look at what supervision looks like in Indiana. But I think what's extremely important is we start bringing people to the table who may not understand why we need some of these changes to happen, or maybe just in straight opposition of it. It's important that we have all opinions at the table to really come to a mutual agreement of what does safety look like here for our Hoosier state? How do we allow people to have a second chance, but still feel comfortable doing that? So it's really, really important that we have some of the opposition in that conversation so we could work through some of the concerns and perceived issues that they may have with pushing some of our work. And also understanding like not everything needs legislative efforts too. Like maybe it's just conversations with employers who have a blanket policy about not allowing someone with a criminal record to work for them. How do we have conversations with them to create a safe space to maybe lift some of those restrictions so individuals have access to employment opportunities or lifting restrictions on their access to housing. Sometimes people just have these policies out of fear and concern, but maybe the data doesn't back up, what they're doing in their own community. So we always welcome opportunities to share the knowledge, share the research, share the evidence, and really work to just better practices in Indiana and giving these individuals the second chance that they have rightfully earned. And I will put that information in the chat, and I welcome any questions.
Miranda?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Carol. I have never asked you about whatever happened to the Crane house.
It was closed down. My understanding that it has been purchased by I know there was communication with VOA, but it's still not opened yet. But yeah, for my understanding, it was closed down to some funding issues.
Okay. And for others don't know, it is a prison for women, but they were able to keep their children there. I think up to age 5.
Yep. So the Safer Supervision link is in the chat. I will also just put the bill numbers in there as well. I can't always remember them, but happy to answer any questions regarding the legislation, the federal legislation, or even connect you with our policy team if you would like us to do a presentation, as Lori has allowed us to, with your organization, your faith community. If you think that people are interested, we are always looking to just garner more support on this effort and really continue to build out a diverse community of coalition members.
Wonderful presentation, Miranda. And I just want to remind everybody, our social action campaign. Let's see, I don't. No, it's not. It's on our flyer. United Women of Faith. Our social action campaign is ending mass incarceration, and your group is trying to combat that. And so you're a really worthy group to support. So I can't thank you enough for your presentation.
Yeah, and one thing about if you're concerned about joining another effort, I will tell you that our coalition participation can be as time consuming as you would like. We just ask that you stay involved and stay active and stay in communication with me as you have events, and you help support some of our calls to action. But I send out a biweekly email of everything that's happening in the community, regardless if it's related to criminal justice reform. If someone sends me an event that's happening, fundraisers, community events, trainings, and then we have one 45-minute meeting a month just to do a check-in, and I allow individuals or organizations to present during the meeting, and we use our time very precisely. We don't I prefer not to waste people's time, but it's just a lot of information shared. And I am proud to say that it really has helped break down some of the silos of the work that people are doing in different spaces of the state. I'm very privileged to kind of have I look over the state and see where people are working at, what are their efforts look like, and be the connector. So we're all sharing resources and not necessarily fighting over them or starting stuff from scratch and inventing a wheel that has already been done. So would love to offer that and offer access to my network if you have any needs or questions or looking for different services.
Wonderful. Yeah, I attend her coalition meetings, and they're so well run and very, very informative. So I can't thank you enough, Miranda, for sharing with us today. And then I do have slides at the close of the meeting just to reinforce the bills that she was referring to, the federal legislation and her contact information. So I'm so pleased to have our Reverend Dr. Elise Fulbright with us. She's currently serves as the Secretary of General Conference of the United Methodist Church, and she's an ordained elder in the United Methodist Church who is a person of conviction in living a personal mission to encourage, equip, empower, and all people to live on purpose and live out their God-giveness. I love that. Elise, I'm so happy that you're with us. Thank you for um, sharing some time with us. You're very inspirational. I love your Facebook posts. They inspire me. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, greetings to all who are gathered. You have spent the morning being resourced with some very good information and opportunities for where you are able to lend your feet to your prayers. And it is my understanding that my task is to rally you forward. So you've heard the information. And so, again, my task is to rally you forward. And so I pray that I'm faithful to what has been asked. So, for the time that is ours to share, I would like for you to think with me with this theme in mind: faith that shows up. Faith that shows up. Siblings in Christ, faithful advocates, persons who believe that prayer should move our feet. Grace and peace to you in the name of Jesus Christ. Today, we are gathered not just as concerned citizens, but disciples and followers of Jesus Christ. We are here because our faith refuses to stay silent when human dignity is on the line. We are here because the love of God inevitably leads to love of neighbor, and love of neighbor always has public consequences. We are here in a moment when the decisions made in the State House will shape classrooms, courtrooms, clinics, kitchens, congregations, and communities across Indiana. We are here in a moment when silence would be easier, but faith demands more. We are here in a moment when the witness of women, your witness, matters deeply. This is Legislative and Advocacy Day, but more than that, it is a holy moment, a reminder that faith belongs not only in sanctuaries, but also in state houses, school systems, healthcare debates, and policy conversations that shape daily life in Indiana. Because wherever God's people show up to speak for those whose voices are dismissed, whenever disciples carry faith into the public square, whenever love takes the form of action, God is present. The prophet Micah reminds us of what God requires to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with our God. Notice justice is not something we do. Kindness is something we love, and humility is how we walk together. Today, we are here to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly into the halls of power, not because we trust systems to save us, but because we trust God who calls us. And let us be clear from the very beginning, advocacy is not a distraction from the gospel. It is an expression of it. Jesus embodies this faith. Jesus healed the sick and challenged unjust systems. Jesus fed the hungry and confronted those who hoarded power. Jesus showed us that salvation is both personal and communal. Faith that follows Jesus does not avoid the public square. It enters it with humility, courage, and love. And we, as United Methodists, are guided by our social principles, not as political platforms, but as theological commitments rooted in Scripture and shaped by our shared witness. At the heart of our social principles, every person is of sacred worth. That belief shapes how we engage issues like healthcare and education equity, economic justice, criminal legal reform, environmental stewardship. The social principles remind us that laws and policies are moral documents. They either protect sacred worth or they diminish it. And our social principles insist that faith is never neutral about human suffering. So let us be equally as clear as we who are gathered here today understand that Indiana is our mission field. And right now in our state, families are struggling to afford housing and childcare. Healthcare access, especially maternal and mental health care, remains uneven. Educational disparities continue along racial and economic lines. Environmental concerns affect rural and urban communities alike. And women's bodies and autonomy are increasingly regulated without adequate care and structures in place. These are not theoretical debates. These are lived realities for women sitting in our pews, working in our offices, raising children in our communities. And here is where our social principles and the gospel witness teaches us. When policy harms the most vulnerable, the church does not look away. When laws ignore the complexity of human life, the church tells the truth. When power forgets compassion, the church remembers. And here is a hard but holy truth. Silence in the face of injustice is not neutrality. It allows harm to continue. This is why your presence matters, because policy is shaped by those who show up, and justice is advanced by those who refuse to disengage. So, United Women in Faith in Indiana, you come from a long legacy that has created history of women who has always led when conscience called. When the church hesitated, women organized. When system failed, women served. When justice was delayed, women persisted. You stand in a long line of faithful women who believe that faith should shape the world as it is, not just comfort us as it is. And from the very beginning, scripture shares around women who have been centered in God's redemptive work. It was women who defied Pharaoh to save Hebrew children, who spoke prophetic truth when kings would not listen, who funded Jesus' ministry when others dismissed him, stayed at the cross when disciples fled, were the witnesses to the resurrection. The resurrection was entrusted to women before it was believed by men. And we understand that the church cannot outsource its conscience to politicians. Your letters matter. Your stories matter. Your presence matters. Your persistence matters. Advocacy is rarely glamorous. It is repetitive. It is slow. It is often frustrating. But today, dear ones, the Spirit is still calling us not to disengage, not to grow weary, but to stay involved and have the faith to show up. Because advocacy is not a one-time event, it is a faithful commitment over time. So today, as you have heard an abundance of information and perhaps trying to sort where does your faith show up, I will offer you these three commitments. May you have faith to show up, to stay rooted. Ground your advocacy in prayer and scripture. Let your public witness flow from your relationship with Christ. To have the faith to show up, to stay informed, like today. Learn deeply. Listen to those most impacted by policy decisions. Truth telling is an act of love. And having the faith to show up, to stay engaged. Keep showing up, even when it's uncomfortable. Faith that shows up changes lives. So, as I close this morning, may you not feel powerless, but may you feel power filled by the power of the Holy Spirit. May you see and know that your presence matters. May you sense and ground yourself in faithfulness to know that you are needed for such this time in Indiana, in and around our United Methodist Church, in and throughout the halls of power. May you go with courage. May you go with wisdom. May you go with love because God is with you. And may your faith continue to show up where it matters most. In the name of the Father, in the name of the Son, in the name of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Well, I've got tears in my eyes. What a wonderful closing you brought about. I guess, Elise, could you close this with a closing prayer after I do my slides? Just wonderful inspiration that you've given us. So just for our closing slides, I just wanted to thank Dr. Elise for coming. And we do have a prayer vigil scheduled at First Presbyterian Church in Peru. I don't know, some of you might be in that area. It's kind of in the center of the state, but we'd love for you to join our faith groups there. And so just to reinforce, Mary, teach, educate with holy boldness about integration and its vital connection to Christian discipleship. Connect with immigrant advocacy groups and participate with courage, stay informed about changing dynamics, and embrace joy as a way to approach immigration neighbors, not a problem, but an opportunity to welcome and friendship and giftedness. And then action steps for Christine Daniel. If you want to get your phone out and scan this QR code, it'll take you directly to a list, a contact list that Christine has put online for us, that we can support her and also Miranda in this way to codify the Indiana Women's Prison Nursery. They need our support to make that happen and to make it into law. So we've got that slide, and then here's Miranda's slide. This is also a QR code that you can scan, that you can sign the Safer Supervision petition, and it's Federal Bill 3077 and the House of Representatives 5882. So if you want more information on those bills, I'm sure Miranda would be happy to talk to you further about it. And just thank you for all attending. And is there any questions that people have? Any questions that people have? So, so happy that you all joined us and stayed with us. If you don't have any questions, do you, Dr. Elise, would you like to close us with a prayer then?
Gladly. Friends, let us pray. Holy, gracious, and loving God, we give you thanks and praise for the vehicle of technology that draws us together to be able to be resourced to do your holy work for which you have called each and every one of us. And Lord, today, may you continue to ignite the fire within, to fan the flame across these who are gathered here today, so that there is a lighter witness exposing the darkness that continues to overshadow the light for which you know never will. God, today, this day, for those who are gathered, who are questioning, well, how do I do it because of my whatever? Lord, may there be no excuses. May your spirit prompt in a way to send cards, to show up, to pray, to sign petitions, to be resourced, to be able to tell the story so that others will catch on fire as well. Lord, the things that we are witnessing with our own eyes that are happening across this nation continues to have us grow weary. But you continue to remind us that in your sovereignty and in the history of all of humanity, you have redeemed your people. So, Lord, with the confidence of knowing that you are still with us and for us, may we go with bold courage. May we go in the wisdom of the Holy Spirit. May we have a unrelenting faith that will continue to show up until we see justice is served by all, and your kingdom truly will come on earth as it is in heaven. It is in Christ's name that we pray. Amen.
Beautiful prayer. Beautiful prayer. So I guess we've come to the close. I just want to thank all the wonderful presenters and just they had so many great things to share with us. And special thanks to our president, Lena Weber. Special thanks to our tech support, Jackie Moore. Um, Thank you for Barb McCoy for the Church Women United for being our co-sponsor, and also our um, Indiana conference. Jane was here, and Mary Cartwright is the chair for the, immigration. So we're blessed with so many wonderful people helping us with today's messages. And anyway, I guess we'll close and take care. Have a wonderful day.